Greetings. My name is Dr. Waddell Brooks, Sr., your host, and this is Community Focus. Ladies and gentlemen, we have an exemplary person this morning. She's in the healthcare field, and I'm going to be learning right along with my audience. We have Mrs. Josette Griffin Micheal. She's a certified respiratory specialist, which is CRTT. And she's going to be telling us all about the health field. Good morning, Mrs. Micheal.
Well, good morning, Dr. Brooks. Thank you so much for inviting me. It's a pleasure to be here.
We're very happy that you've taken time again from your busy schedule to be with us on Community Focus. And you just reminded me that you're no stranger to WKRS because you're on Community Focus several years ago while you was working
That's correct. Well, at St. Therese Medical Center. Yeah.
Oh, my goodness.
It was a few years ago.
You know, when you get old like I am, the three things get away from you. The first thing that goes to memory, and I don't remember the other two. But I want you to, first of all, I just like to remember your husband was on a few weeks ago, and he reminded me that he has a wife that would cause your ratings to go up.
He's my biggest marketer, I think.
But tell our listening audience a little bit about your personal and professional background.
Well, that's kind of difficult, I guess. Kind of hard when you're trying to look back into your own life. It's so much easier to make recall of other people's lives. But I think I've always been involved with caring for people. Even when I was a young child, I had this need to always want to do for somebody else. And it was a natural thing to just end up in healthcare. And it really started out many, many years ago at Victory Hospital when it was still Victory.
Okay.
I had the good opportunity of working in the pharmacy back then as a pharmacy apprentice. And from there, they had the greatest opportunity of becoming a respiratory therapist. They provided schooling right there at Victory Hospital.
Okay.
And it was provided by Columbia College. So I enrolled, and I was what they call the pioneer class. I was in one of the very first classes that they had. And I made it through, believe it or not. I did pass, and I went on to take my boards, and I stayed at Victory for 5 years. And then had a great opportunity to go to what was then St. Therese Medical Center to work in their pediatric neonatal unit. And that was kind of my specialty, was working with children. So I did that for quite some time, was in the respiratory therapy department, loved what I was doing. And then, unfortunately, I was involved in an auto accident in the early 90s. And that kind of took me out of direct patient care. And from there, I just segued right into marketing of healthcare, and I never left.
You know, Victory, my wife worked at Victory, too, the first years of her employment, but that was in 73 or 4.
I don't really remember, but I was there in 76.
I think she had just left. Yeah, just left. She's left. She was a medical technologist.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, 74 is when we left and started the entrepreneurship with the young kids. Okay, just the training that's required for a respiratory therapist.
Well, respiratory therapy, you do need to go to school. And we were very fortunate. Back in the day, it was all grandfathered in. So we didn't have to worry about state licensure or anything like that. We did a year of schooling. And then we were able to sit for our boards. And if we were lucky enough to pass the boards, we actually became certified or registered, depending on which degree you went. Registered was 2 years, and I opted for the 1 year. I believe now you do need to have a state licensure, and I think you have to actually go and get your general boards and then also get your state boards in order to be able to work in Illinois.
There is a high demand for respiratory therapists, isn't there?
There is. I think, although I have to say in one aspect there is, because they are totally responsible for patients, especially on the ventilators. Although many of the duties that respiratory therapists did back in my day are now being absorbed by the nurses. Nurses loved it when they had respiratory therapy up there because they did all the blood work and they took care of the ventilators and they, essentially suctioned the patient and did all the bedside care. But as time has changed and healthcare has changed, a lot of that now the nurses do, which just really puts more on their plate. Mm-hmm. And respiratory therapists really still do make the ventilator changes and make sure that everything is working in that realm.
Mm-hmm. Skilled nursing facilities is a great demand, too, for those, right?
Right. There aren't that many. Funny you should bring that up because I happen to be working part-time in a skilled nursing facility right now.
Okay.
And we don't have that many in Lake County that even do respiratory therapy. It's a very, very unique profession. I'm not saying it because I am one. I'm saying it because I've seen throughout the years the knowledge base that respiratory therapy people can actually provide in the healthcare field. And unfortunately, here in Lake County, there's only one, maybe two skilled nursing facilities that actually do ventilators.
Wow.
And most of them, they have outside agencies come in to provide oxygen or, nebulizers or other entities that residents and patients might require. But you very rarely ever see an active respiratory therapist in a skilled nursing facility, at least not in Lake County.
What about men versus women in the field?
That's funny you should say that. As I look back into my class, we were predominantly women, and now I think it's pretty evened out. We had probably two gentlemen that were respiratory therapists. Now I think as I look, both Vista Hospital, they have probably equally number of both men and women.
Mm-hmm. Ladies and gentlemen, again, we're talking with Josette Griffin Micheal. She's a certified respiratory therapist. And I'd like to say how we met. We were at a pancake breakfast at the American Legion. That's VFW.
American Legion, right?
Yeah. And a few weeks ago. And we're just talking, telling jokes and so forth. And her husband ended up being on the program. And then he recommended that his wife would be on. And so we never know how the Lord works,
That's very true.
And this is the first time I believe I had husband and wife.
Except I do need to remind you, though, we actually met probably 25 years ago when you were speaking at then Victory Hospital.
Okay.
And I was very impressed with you, and I came up and I spoke with you. I was still in respiratory therapy at that time.
Was that Victory or St. Therese?
That was at Victory.
Victory?
Yeah, Victory Hospital. And then we met again at St. Therese, which I think you actually spent more time at St. Therese.
Okay.
And then at that time now, I had actually gone into the marketing department. So we had done a show quite a few years ago.
Well, this is fantastic. Fantastic. You mentioned, though, too, in the skilled nursing facilities, you director of marketing, I guess, is your area now.
Well, I'm not really a director now. I'm just part-time.
Okay.
I'm a liaison, both for the community and for the physicians. And it's something that I truly enjoy doing. I love working in the community. I've done it for many, many years. I've always tried to be very active with all the different senior groups in the area and kind of been pulling out of some of them with the idea that I am retired, but it never really seems to work that way.
Right. Tell me about it.
Yeah. So you will usually see me somewhere. I'm usually doing something, some type of expo or volunteering somewhere.
I was looking at your mini resume. And I say mini because you have tons of work that you've done. And mostly as volunteering. You've been volunteering all over Lake County. You served on board of directors. As a matter of fact, we met again, just Saturday, I guess, at Elder Care, Right. Tell us about your Elder Care experience.
Elder Care was a very unique position. I was a board member for 11 years, and I enjoyed every minute of it. I actually watched them grow. They're doing wonderful things in Lake County. Unfortunately, I did resign from the board last year. It was time to really move on and bring in some new faces, and they've got a great team now. But the positive thing about elder care is transportation has always been a real dire need in Lake County. There are just never seems to be enough of it to get our people from one place to the other. And with elder care, of course, that is their main focus, is they provide transportation, especially to seniors or the elderly who can't afford to hire a taxi or whatever. So they've branched from the immediate area of Waukegan, North Chicago, Zion. Now they're heading further north and west, and they're really doing some great things in the community. Very proud to have said I was part of their board.
And you're still recruiting for elder.
I still am recruiting for, I guess I am. I'm doing a little mini commercial for them right now.
But tell us this: this is a great assistance to families, especially they have to work, and the elders are not driving; they cannot go. Now, there's no fee for the service.
There's no fee.
Right?
If you can pay something, they ask you to pay a nominal fee, but actually there is none. They also provide volunteers who can shop for people who can't get out or run some errands for them. And it's been working very, very well throughout the years. Like I said, it's just getting bigger.
Yeah, the recognition dinner for the volunteers were. I was happy to be invited because I did not volunteer. Well, maybe I did. I had the radio program promoting it. Lee Ramirez, I believe her name was on my program just recently promoting the dinner, and it was fantastic. Good turnout too.
It was a good turnout. Yes, it was.
Very fantastic. Now you also tell us about importance of. You mentioned health care. People really don't take care of their bodies the way they should.
That's very true.
And each time I go for my annual physical, the doctor asks me, do you drink or do you smoke and so forth? Now, person may have stopped smoking and drinking, but in their later years, it may show up too, right?
Exactly right. I think we are very frivolous when we're younger, and we tempt fate a lot. And it seems just normal to eat junk food and smoke and be out drinking till all hours of the night. It's just part of our culture. It's the way we've been since day one. It's all fun and games when we're younger. Okay. By the time we get older, then we start seeing all the effects. Okay.
A friend of mine passed away recently, and they checked him out for one thing. I say a massive heart attack, but when they had the autopsy, they showed that he had cancer in both lungs.
Yes.
Both lungs. So actually, when they passed the law about non-smoking in the restaurants and different public places, they're actually doing you a favor.
They're doing us a favor. Smokers don't think so, but they are doing us a favor.
And they find out in later years,
Yeah, the unfortunate thing is most people, or many, I shouldn't say most, but many people are still in denial. Those that enjoy drinking and smoking are probably not going to stop. And having been a respiratory therapist, I can tell you from witnessing it myself that chronic smokers who have ended up with emphysema, who have obviously ended up on ventilators or with trachs, still sneak out and have a cigarette. And at that point, I think the attitude is, well, you're not going to reverse it, so you just want to make them happy. But again, too, if they're doing it in the house, they're still exposing the smoke to everybody else that's there. I'm a old smoker. I smoked back in the day when I was young.
Okay.
And I was fortunate enough when I got involved in respiratory therapy, it's when I stopped smoking.
Right. So you've been in community involvement ever since you retired, right? You never stopped.
I've never stopped. Well, I've been involved. Being a healthcare marketer, you're always involved in the community.
Okay.
But it seems like your little appendages grow. The more you're in, the more you reach out to do. So when I officially retired, which was 5 years ago, I felt like it was really time to start pulling back, and ended up getting involved in other volunteer type, adventures. So, yeah, I guess, it's just, I think it's bred in most people. Some people are just natural volunteers. They just feel like they need to do it. And I think it's a wonderful thing. We need more of it.
So it's really not only for the patient, but for the volunteers. It gives you a great
self-satisfaction
to help people,
Absolutely.
This type of thing. Your husband actually is Actually, he never retired either. When I interviewed him, he's in remodeling and also pottery.
Exactly. Right.
So has he been doing remodeling all of his
As
life
long as
then?
I've known him, he actually had his own remodeling business for almost 40 years, sold it 2 years ago, stayed with the new owner for a year, and then he decided he was going to retire. That was in this past November. And he's still working basically full time. It's like he just can't let it go. A lot of it is jobs for the neighbors, handyman,
right.
things that people can't do on their own.
Right.
Does he always get paid? No.
Right.
Does it really matter to him? No. So, yeah, again, I think it worked out well as a couple because we both enjoy doing it.
Right. How did he get involved in pottery?
Pottery, pottery was his de-stressor. And actually, he's been at that for probably 20 years.
Oh.
It started out as a hobby. It's actually turned almost into a business because we now have people calling, asking specifically for him to make certain things. And I have to say, he really does a great job. He was recently entered into the show over at the Veterans Administration, and he took first place with his pottery. Apparently, his work is going to go on to Washington. And so, it is kind of like his de-stressor. I haven't found one yet. I'm still looking for a de-stressor.
I was surprised. You also, I guess once you're busy, you get involved in everything. You're involved in Cub Scout facility.
Well, I used to. Yes, I was actually a Cub Scout leader, and there was also several programs that the Cub Scouts put on, and we used to actually have them come through St. Therese back then, and they used to actually put in their time by doing projects at St. Therese. And so I was actually a facilitator for that. Don't do that anymore, though.
No, okay.
No, that I did give up.
We find more women involved now. I guess because of the kids, I guess, but.
Sure, that's how you initially get involved.
Not
sure.
as many men involved now. I don't know whether you don't see as many scouts as you used to.
That's the unfortunate thing, even with Girl Scouts. I was a Girl Scout when I was young.
Okay.
And I never became a volunteer for them. I chose the Cub Scouts because my son was a Cub Scout and went on to Boy Scouts. But you're right. We don't see that as much as we used to, and that's really kind of sad. It is sad.
And you're involved in church work, too. I noticed you were at the Queen of Peace.
That's correct.
Fundraisers and so forth, Importance of church in a person's life.
Oh, wow. This could be a show in itself. Okay. I really think we have lost the values. I'll tell you what, there's just so many changes in the world going on right now, not all very positive.
Okay.
And when we start taking church and God out of schools and out of our daily life, we are really heading down the wrong path.
I mention this all the time, though, that on the epitaph, there will be date of birth dash date of death. And it's what you do between that dash what counts.
Is what's important.
And the short time that we have on this earth, maybe 70, 80, if we're fortunate, 90 years, that's a drop in the bucket compared to eternity.
Oh, you've got that right.
And you won't get a second chance. When a book of life is open and they look at Josette's record, there's no doubt about it. The Lord is going to say, step right up. For the work that you've done in that dash, right?
Well, you're very, very gracious, Dr. Brooks. There's a lot more I could be doing. I wish I could. But, we do have some limitations along the way, unfortunately.
Right. I noticed that you also Exchange Club, you've done a lot of work there, too. It's very important.
Yes, I was very involved with the Gurney Exchange Club. That's actually how I met my husband. That's how John and I met. I was there actually drawing blood on behalf of St. Therese, or at that time it was called St. Therese Medical Center. And we would go out and do our community service, and that was one was providing blood draws for the Exchange Club. And I had met John then, and it was so funny. I didn't care for him back then. It's really funny how the story goes.
Amazing.
But long story short, we ended up getting married about 2 years later, and we've been together ever since. So.
Ladies and gentlemen, again, we're very fortunate really to have with us Josette Griffin Micheal. She's profession is skilled nursing facilities and home health care too, right? Mm-hmm. And she volunteered to come and share with us information about her background, because she is a person that you should know, and hopefully some of you would get involved in volunteering. There's no better thing to do. As I know, I've been retired 25 years myself, and been volunteering ever since.
That's true.
And still volunteering. And it's a joy to talk with people about their careers, because I'm learning right along with my audience, about careers. And it's very, especially in this field here, radio and TV, you just think about how many careers that I have learned about in the 25 years.
I can only imagine. Yes.
And I've been. Now, ultimately, what do you plan to do? Is it continue volunteering, or is there something special that you want to get involved in?
Well, actually, we are talking about physically moving someplace warmer, but we even tried that a few months ago and came back home. Actually found a house.
There's something about Lake County.
Yeah, and here we are. We decided not to take the house. We thought we'd hang around a little bit longer.
Okay.
And I really believe as long as we're here, we will probably continue to volunteer.
Right. Mm-hmm. Well, how about the children? They're going to...
Well, I have one son,
okay,
and he's in Kenosha.
Okay.
He has 3 children of his own. He's a businessman. He owns his own business as well.
Okay.
And so, like most people that are trying to run their businesses, his time is very limited. So I don't really get to see him as much as I would. I'm actually thinking if I move out of the state,
okay,
I might possibly see him more.
Right.
It's usually what happens.
Amazing. At one time there was a Health Reach clinic. Is it still here?
The Health Reach clinic is still, yes, it's still here. I think their focus has changed. Well, they still take care of the underserved. I know that.
Okay.
I have to say I really haven't had much exposure to them over the years, so I don't know but what they've changed or how they've changed, but I think there have been some changes. But it is still there, and it's still available for those that need care.
According to the Bible, that the poor will be with you always. So there's always going to be...
There's always going to be people in need.
In need, right. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I like you and your husbands. We were joking and so forth and laughing, and it takes less muscles to smile that does the frown, right?
That's
I
true.
hate to see people, the face look like a puzzle.
That's very true, though.
And I think the scripture says, it's either in Proverbs or Psalm 1, I'm sure, but laughter is like a medicine to the soul, right?
It's very true.
You feel much better.
You feel much better when you're laughing.
Right. Now, a wellness counselor, what's involved in a wellness counselor?
Actually, I was very fortunate. I had 13 years of exposure working with a local chiropractor.
Oh.
And of course, as we all know, they're more into holistic medicine than your traditional pills and whatever.
Right.
And there are many tests that chiropractors do perform, and they're basically wellness. Usually by the time we go to a doctor, it's because there's a problem. Right. The one thing about holistic is they want to do preventative. They want to catch it before it actually happens. So the big focus is on this is what you need to do to keep from getting ill. And I was very fortunate to learn different techniques and learn how to use different equipment to help find out if there is potentially a problem with a patient or possibly a patient. Mm-hmm. And that was really an exciting event. So it gave me a different focus when I need to use more myself internally on what we should be doing as far as better diets, exercise, so forth, to keep ourselves healthy until you finally get to the point where you do need to run to the doctor because you're desperate.
Mm-hmm. I mentioned annually in my physicals, the doctor not only just recommend exercise, but he performs some of the exercise I should be doing. And
Well,
they're,
that's good.
and they're simple to do, standing, bending, and this type of thing. And of course, I had to get a bicycle for in-house, to ride the bicycle. But exercise is good, and when I guess it deters keep the arteries
Right.
from
Keep
getting
your arteries
plugged and
clean
so
and right.
forth, and this type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Very good, very good.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and the Exchange Club, I know they have been growing. They have what they call a National Honors Flight. Are you familiar with that?
Yes.
You want to tell us a little bit? I think they just got back, and I think in North Chicago just got back from a weekend of in Washington, D.C., and I couldn't attend because I was at another function. But I think they go at least twice
Yeah,
a year.
I think, we do have, I believe it's 7 or 8 exchange clubs in Lake County,
Okay.
which is really good. And I think everybody has a different focus on how they want to do this.
Okay.
I know that North Chicago, in fact, just the other day, we had the Zion Resource Senior Fair, and there was a gentleman who just returned from that. And
Okay.
he was telling us what an exemplary and wonderful program that they had put on, and he was just so proud to have been a part of that.
Mm-hmm.
I honestly can't tell you what Gurney is doing right now. I do know that they are focused on doing something. So every club is trying to find a way to honor our veterans.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It's not just because I'm a Korean veteran, but there's no better thing to do and to honor your veterans.
Well, this is way overdue.
Right.
Way overdue.
Right. Mm-hmm. Well, tell us about your in women. There used to be a glass ceiling, but that glass ceiling is slowly coming down now. There's very few non-traditional jobs for women now, right? I mention that because I worked at the Public Works Center at Great Lakes, and we had women in trade jobs.
Mm-hmm.
That never been before. We had what we call they couldn't get into unions, and so we had our own program to grow women in jobs. There was one grandmother passed the test for a pipe fitter.
Wow, that's interesting.
I tease her right now. We belong to the same church, and she got certificates and awards,
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know whether the men lifted the heavy pipes for her or not, but there's a lot of aspects besides the lifting, I guess. But she did an outstanding job as far as, so that glass ceiling came down. I guess they still hiring women in the trades.
Yes, they do. In fact, I don't really think there's anything out there right now that women aren't eligible for potential employment.
Uh-huh.
There are still some old-fashioned guys out there that don't like to see women working alongside of them.
Oh, yes.
But I think that is also slowly changing. I think if you could put a rifle in a woman's hands and expect her to go out and fight for our country, then you should expect her to be able to work alongside of you as a police officer, fire, construction, whatever it may be. And I think they do an excellent job.
Josette Griffin Micheal, you are a certified respiratory therapist and an exemplary person for Lake County. You and your husband, I wish you great success. He's a retiree, and say retiree, quote unquote, but he still does volunteering work and remodeling, and also in the pottery field. And you're a respiratory certified therapist. And it's been great having you to share, a biography of yourself. Again, you're a skilled nursing facility person and also a home health care person too, right?
I've done both of them.
And we're very happy. So thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for listening to another awareness session on Community Focus. My name is Dr. Waddell Brooks Sr., your host.